started. Today, we're going to be amused and entertained by Alan Ames during his comedy show, Alan Ames Thinks He's Funny. Please welcome Alan. Thank you so much for coming.
Thanks. You had all that time and that's all you wrote.
I know.
She was up there for like 20 minutes. I gave her all this stuff to say and that's all I got. So I may or may not use the microphone because if I project, can everybody hear me? Oh, we have an obstructed view seats here. I'll start off with the mic and we'll see how that goes. So, welcome, this is my show. My name is Alan Ames, and this is my show, Alan Ames Thinks He's Funny. Senior Center version. At 1:30 in the afternoon, you get PG-13, that's it. Now, the name of my show, Alan Ames Thinks He's Funny, if you Google that, it will actually bring you to some of my shows and other information about me. So if you do, just remember, my name is nice and easy. Ames, like the department stores used to be, and Alan, just one L because unfortunately my parents were poor. A-M-E-S.
No,
A-L-A-N-A-M-E-S.
Are you on YouTube?
Yes, if you Google Alan Ames Thinks He's Funny, it will bring you to my YouTube videos. So, if I told you that I was OFD, who here would know what that means? OFD? Originally from Dorchester.
Oh, yeah.
That's actually a thing.
You're in Lexington.
I know. Originally from Dorchester. There's bumper stickers that say that.
Oh, really?
Originally from Dorchester. Yeah, it's actually a thing. So that's where I grew up, but when my family moved to the town of Stoughton when I was entering my junior year of high school. And that's where I met my wife. So my wife Anita and I, we've been married 49 years. That's a good sign you guys clapped right on cue. Okay, we graduated Stoughton High together in 1970. UMass Amherst together in 1974. A year later, we got married, and 2 years later, the first of three. 2 sons and a daughter, all in their 40s now. You see a bus?
Yep.
Yay!
Oh. It's just coming around the corner there.
Oh, Express.
Oh, no, it isn't. I don't know about that.
That's Express.
That's not.
False alarm, guys.
Oh,
okay.
practice.
Yeah. Practice.
So, yeah, okay, well, hi, my name is Alan Ames. So 2 sons and a daughter, all in their 40s now, 6 grandchildren. Our granddaughter is our red-haired, freckle-faced Molly. She's 16. The other 5 are all boys younger than her, so as far as she's concerned, she's in charge. Yeah, she's special, that's right. So professionally, my background is food service management, but I'm not going to get into that. I did, however, retire from that about a dozen years ago. And now, these days, I have a driving job in the morning. I'm actually a chauffeur for Erie International. It's a black car service, or in Massachusetts, we call it livery. So I do 5 mornings a week at 72, but I love it. I'm an early morning person, so I'm out and about meeting people. I'm also an avid tennis player, and I belong to the Y in my town of Foxborough, where I work out at the gym 2 or 3 times a week anyway, because it takes a lot of work to keep this physique in such great shape. I am a volunteer out of the Foxborough Senior Center, and this is probably my 12th 1-hour show since I started doing these. It was a bucket list item for me. I started at a bar down in Providence doing like 5 minutes. But my material is really geared for a general audience and for my fellow seniors, as I call it, boomer humor. So I developed this 1-hour program that I do, and I am a volunteer. I don't charge. It's I don't have money to donate, but I have my time and I have my show, so it's just my way of giving back is entertaining my fellow seniors. That's your second cue.
Oh, I said no. Wake up.
You were close. You
Wake
were
up.
close.
Wake up.
Now, there is one more reason why I do these shows for free, to tell you the truth. I don't want anyone chasing me in the parking lot asking for their money back. And I know from experience that I cannot outrun a highly motivated person in a wheelchair. I can't. No. I thought someone said something. If you miss your cue, I will let you know. So this is what's going to happen here in the next hour or so. I have a little bit more of intro stuff that I do. I'm going to weave my way through different routines, including growing up in Dorchester. I'm going to have some fun with the differences between North Shore and South Shore people. I'm going to have a lot of fun with getting older. I have a bunch of assorted jokes that I'm going to throw in. I actually have my moniker. I might play a tune later. And I will probably end with a segment on things that bother me. So in case you're wondering what kind of material I'm going to present, that's pretty much my plan depending on how time goes. So, are we ready?
Yeah.
Okay. I want to bring you now, thank you, but not yet. I want to bring you now back to Dorchester in 1960. I was 8 years old. Grew up in the triple deckers. Small backyards, small front yards, little alleys that separated the houses. That's why we played in the streets. All those games like stickball, halfball, and hopscotch, and jumping rope, and 1, 2, 3 red light. I don't even remember how to play that. So, when you're 8 years old in Dorchester, living on the top floor of a triple decker, there's my Boston accent coming out. You just kind of accept things, even though they might not make sense to you. And one of the things that never made sense to me at 8 years old in a triple decker in Dorchester is that we had a bowl of plastic fruit. Plastic fruit. And we didn't even keep it out. It stayed in the pantry. Until company came. When company came, then we brought the bowl of plastic fruit out onto the table. And that was my job. Those were the days you actually had company, right? There were no cell phones back then. People would ride around and they'd go, oh, the Ameses live nearby. Let's go stop and see the Ameses. So the doorbell would ring and it'd start coming up 3 flights of stairs, and my father would yell, Alan, go get the bowl of plastic fruit. Run to the pantry, get dust off the bowl of plastic fruit, bring it out. They come upstairs, sit down at the table, and they see it. They go, oh, you put out a bowl of plastic fruit. Yes, we regard you very highly. For you get the bowl of plastic fruit. So I don't know if that was a thing back then or just a decoration. I'm not really sure. Yeah. But something else about plastic back then. We had a couch. I love when everybody knows what I'm going to say next. We kept this plastic on the couch all the time. Like the first sheet on a bed is like a fitted sheet? This plastic that was on the couch was like a fitted plastic sheet that was on the couch. Never came off. If you were going to sit on it, you had to sit on the plastic on the couch. And I always wondered what would happen if, what would happen if I touched the fabric? So every once in a while, if nobody was looking, I'd stick my hand under the plastic. And nothing ever happened. Now, even company, when they came over, they still had to sit on the plastic on the couch, which wasn't too uncomfortable until summertime. Because there's no air conditioning back then. And you'd get all sticky and you'd sweat and all like that. But something else about those times. Times obviously were different back then. My mother was going to have a birthday. And my father was all excited because he thought he got her the best birthday present ever. What did he get her?
He probably got her a vacuum or a washing machine.
He got her a vacuum cleaner. Let's hear it for the person that ruined my joke. My father got her a vacuum cleaner for her birthday. He was all excited about it. Now, if I ever got my wife a household appliance for her birthday, the cause of death on the coroner's report would be death by strangulation. My mother, I felt, she took a bus and a train into Boston, to Post Office Square, train and bus to get home, walked home. You know what she did? She did dictaphone, if anybody remembers what that was. Yeah. So, her bosses would record into a machine, and then later she'd listen to it and type, whatever was said. So this poor woman, she comes home after a long day, comes up 3 flights of stairs. We have the vacuum cleaner all set up. My father was all excited. As soon as she opened the door, flicked on the vacuum cleaner, and happy birthday. And my mother was like, thanks. It's like, now I'll go vacuum the house. Oh, and what's for dinner? But those, that was different back then. Now, if my father was still alive, he would be 104. And I am a lot like him. He was a storyteller, loved to tell jokes. When they retired to an apartment complex in Brockton. And in the nice weather, he would sit out back, and on the lawn, the little kids of all ethnicities would just sit like they were at a campfire. And my father would tell them stories after stories after stories. So I know I get a lot of this from him. And I do remember a lot of things that he did, a lot of his jokes and stuff. And he had a poem that I am going to share with you. And the poem is about pay toilets. Pay toilets. Growing up in Boston, there were pay toilets at the retail stores downtown or in public areas where you needed a coin or a dime or something if you needed to use, a stall with a door on it, right? In fact, didn't we have those shoes with the little slot on it? Penny loafers, that's right. Right, in case you needed to make a phone call or use a stall in public toilet. So I would like to honor his memory, and I'm going to tell you this little poem it is. It goes like this. Here I sit, broken-hearted, paid a dime and only farted. And he said that randomly, just every once in a while. In the supermarket, he would just come out and say that. Now, also, he knew exactly what to say to me to make me feel better if I did something stupid or did something wrong or just really messed something up. And I remember one time I was carrying a plate of food to the kitchen table and everything slid right off onto the floor. So I froze. He looked at me, I looked at him. He said, Alan, I can't believe you were the fastest sperm. I'm always afraid to tell that joke because I'm not sure how it's going to go. Usually people laugh, but in the town of Medfield, I told that joke. See, I do this because it's like watching a horror movie. You're not really sure if you want to watch or not. Instead of a laugh, I got a gasp. A gasp from a crowd a little bit smaller than this. And in fact, one lady reached for her inhaler. She did.
We're free spirits around.
Yeah, that's good. All right, so we have 2 sons and a daughter. Our oldest son lives in Washington, D.C., well, Silver Spring, Maryland. We'll get to him later. Our daughter lives in Easton, that's near us. We live in Foxborough, as I said. But our youngest son lives in a little town that I never heard of before called Groveland. Groveland, it's up near the New Hampshire border, near Haverhill. And he's there because he married a North Shore girl. And we're South Shore people. And she wasn't even from one of the good towns up there. She wasn't from like Andover, or Essex, or Hamilton, or Marblehead, who obviously have a habit of being late. She was from a tough town, not Lowell, not Lawrence. She was from Lynn. Lynn is a tough city. In fact, there's a poem about Lynn. Do you know it?
Yes. Then let the city of
So in case you didn't hear the poem, it is, Lynn, Lynn, city of sin, you never come out the way you went in. Now that's a real thing, because Lynn is a tough city. So the first time that we met Jen, our daughter-in-law, when they were first dating, they did get married. Tall, she's like 5'9", long blonde hair, really long blonde hair. And I noticed right away that she loved jewelry. She had like the rings and the bracelets and the necklaces and the bling and the ankle bracelet. And in fact, that ankle bracelet was so stunning, you could hardly even tell it was a GPS tracking device. You couldn't. Her parents still live in Lynn, and her brother does too sometimes when, you know, he's on parole. And we tried to warn him back then, Matt, if you marry Jen, just remember you're going to be married to a North Shore person. We're South Shore people. Can't you find someone from like Sharon or Foxborough or Easton? Like, no, that's why they're up there. And so, you know, we're getting into like West Side Story territory now. With Matt, you need to stick with your own kind. You need a South Shore person. He married her anyway, but we did tell him about some of the differences. If you Google differences between North Shore and South Shore, there's a lot of fun stuff on the internet. Like, for example, they have Cape Ann, we have Cape Cod. You know, they have Revere Beach, we have Nantasket Beach. They like their Kelly's roast beef, and we like our pizza places. But they have one thing that we don't have, and I'm glad, because on one of their beaches up there, they have what? Those little green flies. They bite.
Crane's Beach.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what flies are attracted to, right? So us South Shore people, we don't have that problem. And you know, I said to him, Matt, they're different up on the North Shore. They have a big orange dinosaur that overlooks Route 1 in Saugus. Anybody knows about this thing?
Yeah.
There's definitely something wrong with people if they think they need to have an orange dinosaur guarding Route 1 southbound. If you're not familiar with this, then plan a road trip, right? Go up to the border to get into the North Shore, make sure you bring your passport. Go up Route 1 and turn around at what used to be one of the best restaurants up there. Yes,
Hilltop.
the Hilltop Steakhouse.
Yeah.
Remember?
Uh-huh.
The plastic cows out front?
Yeah.
You know, 4 for Sioux City, 3 for Carson City, all that stuff. What a great place to go. Well, it's a whole complex now, but the cactus is still there. But if you come back down Route 1 and you look up, there's a big orange dinosaur overlooking Route 1. Because why? Why is it there?
I don't know.
You've known everything else.
I must not have liked it.
It used to be a miniature golf course.
See?
Yes. It used to be a miniature golf course.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Now, to my daughter-in-law's credit, she is very accomplished. I know. And by the way, she knows that I make fun of her in my routine. So the last thing I need is North Shore Lynn Ray's daughter-in-law mad at me. Something like the last thing I need. Jen is very accomplished. She's actually a second-level sommelier, wine expert. She really is. which makes perfect sense because she's a big wino anyway. She is. She actually went to New York City. You've met Jen, haven't you? Oh, you never met Jen? So she went to New York City to study and take the test and all like that. There's 5 levels of being a sommelier. She's a level 2 and she's happy with that. You can pour any kind of wine into a glass, put it in front of her, sniff it, do all these things. She'll tell you everything about it. Absolutely everything about it. She actually works for a winery up there. Now she does this thing on the side where people hire her to come to their home when they have like a dinner party. And she brings a bunch of wine and she does a wine tasting at people's homes. And for a couple of hours she makes a bunch of money. So if anyone is interested in that, I can certainly put you in touch with her, but do me a favor, if you do invite her into your home, lock up all of your prescriptions.
Whoa.
She knows I tell that joke.
Oh,
All right. I'm going to ask a series of questions here. Do you remember making popcorn out of a Jiffy Pop?
Yes.
Do you have a box of old pictures, black and white pictures from generations ago of people that you don't know?
Yes.
Did you have Encyclopedia Britannicas?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Do you still have them?
No.
Do you remember S&H green stamps?
Yes.
Do you have a favorite spatula?
Yes.
Did you play Spin the Bottle? Spin the Bottle.
Unfortunately, yes.
I just asked that. I'd like to know who's frisky up here.
Must be
If you answered yes to any of these questions, I answered a bunch of them. Then congratulations, you are a senior citizen. As I am. I'm 72 if I didn't mention that earlier. So we got older. Things happen, things change, our bodies change, our health changes, maybe our outlook on life, perspective on life, and all like that. But the thing that bothers me the most right now, and it's not really a big deal, is the fact that I know that eventually I'm going to need a hearing aid. Not the end of the world, but eventually I'm going to need a hearing aid because I had one hearing test about a year ago and I'm like right on the border of needing one or not. And I have that thing where I have a hard time hearing dialogue if there's a lot of background noise around it. So that's very common. And just to give you an idea of what my hearing is doing now, my wife and I were watching the news on TV the other night. So kind of watching TV, kind of playing with my phone. And I could have sworn I heard the newscaster say that a woman was shot in her anus. Not a bad word. In her anus. So I said to Anita, my wife, I said, did you hear that? She got shot in her anus. I mean, how is it? Was she tying her shoe? I mean, how does that even happen? So my wife goes, you're an idiot. She got shot in the hyannis. I've been dyeing my hair black for decades, and about a year and a half ago I just let it. I stopped dyeing my hair. So it came to this, and that's fine. I'm happy with it. It's mine as long as I have it, you know. But one thing I noticed when my hair went gray is that everyone started calling me sir. Everyone's holding doors for me now. You know, everyone's nice to me. I would have done it sooner, you know. So this is the month of July. Speaking of gray hair, wasn't it great that last month, the month of June, it was a month to celebrate all of our achievements and our accomplishments, right? It was, wasn't it? It was Gray Pride Month, wasn't it? Gray Pride Month.
Great.
It was Gray Pride Month.
No.
Oh.
Gray Pride Month.
Oh.
I can hear it again.
Yeah, you do. In fact, some friends of mine and I, we went into Boston for the Great Pride Parade. I never imagined that we had so much support from the LGBTQ community. You should have seen them all chanting Great Pride, and they're going by and we're high-fiving them and everything and saying, come and join us. In the colors that they were wearing and the boas and the hats with the plastic fruit on it. See, the plastic fruit came back. Plastic fruit kind of came down from the generations and now it's going through these parades. So, now I didn't see that many seniors marching in the Great Pride Parade. There were a couple. But I'll tell you what, if you want, next June, I'll come here. You'll get a bus. We'll go in. We'll go into the Great Pride Parade and we can all march. We'll have a banner that says Lexington Seniors Support Great Pride. How's that? All right, so when I was younger, to be cool like the other guys, when I was like 14 or 15, I used to keep a condom in my wallet. Not like anything was ever going to happen, but you know, you're with the guys, you go to a dance. Yes, condoms in my wallet. Well, there's no condoms in my wallet anymore, but in the exact same spot that I kept my condoms, I now have lactate pills. Just in case. Also, when I was younger, I had a small tattoo on my chest of a battleship, just a little battleship. And you've seen the Facebook cartoons that make fun of us seniors that had tattoos put on our bodies years and years and years ago. They make fun of us because the tattoos over the years have drooped and become distorted and everything like that. So my little battleship has slowly been sinking over the years. It has. But I take it a step further. Because over the last year and a half or so, I've lost a little bit of weight. I've become a little bit more compact. And I've noticed that the ship is slowly starting to come back up again. It has. So my goal is to continue to watch what I eat and get exercise. I'm hoping to get the battleship back to the surface. So if people ask me, if they say, hey, you look great, are you dieting? I would say, I don't know if you call it a diet, it's kind of like a salvage operation, actually. I'm going to talk about my last colonoscopy now, but I will be gentle. So I've had 3 colonoscopies, something that we get to do as we get older. And the first 2 that I had, you had to drink that awful, citrusy tasting. It was awful what you had to drink for the prep.
Yeah.
So I wasn't looking forward to my 3rd one, which I had several months ago. But my wife had one before me, and you have options now. There's other ways that you can do the prep for a colonoscopy. And what she had was, now keep in mind that the end result is the same, no matter what prep method you need to get cleaned out for your colonoscopy. So she had, her prep was mixing Miralax with Gatorade. Yeah, you had that, right? Which is great, because it doesn't taste bad, right? My son-in-law had his first colonoscopy, and it was a series of pills that he took with glasses and glasses of water over and over. Had the same effect. So knowing that there are options now, the next time I have a colonoscopy, which is going to be in 3 years, I know what I'm going to use for the prep. Since I'm lactose intolerant, I'm just going to eat a bunch of ice cream the night before. I guarantee you it will have the exact same effect. In fact, I can imagine talking with the gastroenterologist afterwards. I can imagine him saying, gee, Mr. Ames, you did a really good job on the prep. What did you use? Well, I used the Ben and Jerry's prep. You know, Ben and Jerry's is missing a big opportunity here. Think about how many colonoscopies there are in the course of a year, or in a day. And how many of those people are older people, and how many of those people might be lactose intolerant. Well, they should design a Ben & Jerry's flavor specifically for people that are going to have a colonoscopy, shouldn't they? They could call it, I don't know, Montezuma or whatever you Now, most people, and I am not most people are apprehensive about going for any medical procedure, not just a colonoscopy, and yeah, with good reason. You know, you want to make sure that you don't have a problem with the anesthesia, you want to make sure that the results are good, you don't want to have any problems and all like that. Not me. I was looking forward to my last colonoscopy because I saw it as an opportunity to try out new material. I did. I had the greatest joke that I wanted to tell right before the procedure. The greatest joke ever, and that's all I could think of. So the day came, and I'm all prepped for my colonoscopy. I really did this. So, you know, I'm in the Johnny, and I'm on the table, I'm sideways, and the anesthesiologist is in front of me. I already have the IV hooked in. And I said to her, I said, before you put that drug in that makes me, you know, float away, let me know, because I have a question I have to ask Dr. Kumar, my gastroenterologist. This is all I could think about, right? I didn't care about having the procedure. I just wanted to tell my joke. So she said, okay, why? I said, because I have to ask him a question. She said, okay. So a few minutes later, the doctors are behind me, everyone's assembled, and she says to me, if you have a question, now's the time, because I'm about to put the drug in and you're going to go to sleep. So I say, Dr. Kumar. He goes, yes, Mr. Ames. I have a question. Okay, what is it, Mr. Ames? If I hear someone say, what an asshole, is that going to be a compliment or an insult? That's all I wanted to do was to tell my joke. I heard laughter, and the next thing I knew, I was in the recovery room. That's all I wanted to do was tell my joke. Oh, this is what we rehearse, right? We have a little bit of a musical interlude here. Good. Thanks. Good, thank God he's not telling jokes anymore. I took harmonica lessons recently. Okay, that's fine.
Makes up for the slam.
Yeah. I'm going to play, I don't have much time, I'm just going to play the beginning of a song if I can remember how to do this. This is actually a professional harmonica. Nope, wrong side. Thank God. Thank God you recognize the song. So, I am a proud graduate of the Betty Crocker School of Music. Not only can I kind of play the harmonica, but now I make a mean bund cake. Is that bund or bunt? Bunt. DT?
Yes.
B-U-N-D-T. And it's because the pan is called a bund pan, right? You can make any kind of a cake that you want. It's turning into a cooking show right now, Kelsey. We're talking about baking, yes. All right. So I have been told that I am as much a humorist as I am a comedian. And there is a distinction, I had to look it up. So a humorist is someone that tells entertaining stories that may or may not have a punchline. They just might be entertaining stories, as opposed to a comedian. And if you look up humorist, there's one famous person from years ago that comes up right away. Mark Twain. Samuel Clemens was a very famous humorist. So to try to balance things out so I know I can still tell jokes, I'm going to tell about 10 just random jokes that aren't really tied to a routine. Just to make sure that I keep in practice telling jokes. So these are some of my favorites. 2 lifelong drinking buddies from Selfie. One of them's in the hospital, kind of serious. And he says to his friend, Johnny, Johnny, if I die, do me a favor. Pour a bottle of my favorite Irish whiskey over my grave. So his friend says, sure, Tommy, I'll do that. But would you mind if I strained it through me kidneys first? Oh, you didn't like that one, I'm sorry. Okay, the next one's not too bad. 2 lifelong buddies, but this time it's all about baseball. They used to play baseball. Seasons tickets, went down to spring training. Everything was baseball. One of them does pass. And about a week later, the other one's in bed, and he sees a vision of his friend. He says, Mike, is that you? Yeah, it's me. Well, are you in heaven? Yes, of course I'm in heaven. Well, answer me this. Is there baseball in heaven? So his friend goes, well, good news and bad news. Okay, well, what's the good news? Well, the good news is, yes, there is baseball in heaven. Okay, well, what's the bad news? Well, the bad news is you're pitching tomorrow.
Oh. Very cute.
All right, so I don't do political jokes, but I do have to mention our former U.S. Senator John Kerry. No comments, please. So John Kerry, who actually ran for president some time ago, he married Teresa Hines. Teresa Hines from the heiress to the ketchup company. When they were dating, he actually had the nerve to ask her, how many positions do you know? And she said, we have 57 varieties. You take a picture? Don't forget.
Start over.
Okay. All right, we're going to see how close you're paying attention now. I tell one short joke. And I normally don't do any body shaming jokes, and if I do, it's about me. So, I think after all the years that short jokes were hurled at me, I get to tell one. So this is about the late French actor Hervé Villechaize, who played Tattoo on the original Fantasy Island TV show. You know, with Ricardo Montalban and all like that. In real life, he married a woman of normal height, and he was barely 4 feet tall. And the woman that he married was maybe 5'5" or 5'6", but I understand that someone put him up to it. Gonna let you guys think about that for a sec. Our oldest son lives down in Washington, D.C., actually in Silver Spring, Maryland. He went to George Washington as an undergrad, but never moved home. So my wife and I have been down to Silver Spring and to Washington, D.C. many, many times over the years, and we've seen all of the Smithsonian. They opened up a spy museum down there not too long ago. So last time we were down there, we went to go check out the spy museum, but we could never find it. Spy museum.
See, yes.
Spy museum.
Okay.
All right, so.
Do you want me to record this too?
No, I have recording. Our 2 sons are very competitive. When we were together recently, they were saying, oh, you know, I make this much, my bonus is this, my potential is that. And I had to get involved, I had to break it up. I said, you know, I make 6 figures too. Unfortunately, 2 of them are after the decimal point. And then they were arguing about how smart they are because they both have master's degrees, and you know how you graduate with honors like cum laude, summa cum laude, magna this and all like that. So I had to break that up as well. So I said, hey, I graduated with honors also. And they go, Dad, what honors did you graduate with? I said, I graduated someone cum get me.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, someone can get me. Oh, let's see. So, we needed to get numbers for our mailbox. Our street address is the number 10. So we went to the hardware store, and we're in the area where they have the numbers for the houses and mailboxes and all that. I had to call the manager over. He goes, what's wrong? I said, well, I need the number 10, but the highest number you have here is 9. So I got the 9. Why not? Close enough. So sometimes my neighbor gets their pizza. Sometimes they don't. 2 little girls. They're sisters, 1 6, 1 4. And they're in the bathroom one day, looking at the scale that's on the ground. The older one says to the younger one, don't ever step on that. Every time Mommy steps on that, it makes her cry. Do you remember the old, the A&P supermarket stores from years ago? They don't exist anymore. They had a chance to merge with Stop and Shop. And I wish they had, because then they would have been Stop and Tea. That's right. We're moving right along, so I want to talk about a little bit about things that bother me. And there are quite a few things that bother me. There's a lot of things that bother me, to tell you the truth. And I'm going to share these with you in the hopes that you might be able to help me with some of these. You might be able to fix some of them. And they could be anything from things that people say, to TV commercials, to highway signs that don't make sense to me. So I'm going to start with things that people say. You know how you might have an honor, or you might get a retirement party and you're asked to say something, and the person gets up and they say, I'm speechless. But then they give a speech. If you say you're speechless, then sit down. Right? But the same thing is people who say, I'm at a loss for words, when they're in that position. No, you're not. Because I know what words are, and a bunch of them just came out of your mouth. And if I ever heard someone put those two things together, like, oh, I'm speechless, I'm at a loss for words, I think my head would just explode. Because and what's even worse is the expression, I'm not going to lie. Right? Someone says something, right? And then they say, I'm not going to lie. The person giving the traffic report recently did this. They said, oh, the expressway is moving along exceptionally well, I'm not going to lie. Well, thanks for that. Isn't that what you're supposed to do, is tell the truth? Right? I can't stand it. I'm not going to lie. So doesn't that mean that everything that you say is a lie, unless you follow it up by saying, I'm not going to lie? And the last thing that bothers me, and this is a word that I made up, these are people I'd like to slap around just a little bit. I call them ofteners. What is an oftener? It's somebody who pronounces the letter T in the word often.
Yeah.
It's not often, it's often. We're not in England. It's not like, hey, how often do you go on a fox hunt? Oh, I go quite often. And this is by logic in this, right? When you do laundry, detergent, right? But then you add something to make everything feel nice. What do you add? Right. I don't want anyone saying softener. I usually get one on a crowd. You put softener in, not softener. So these are some of the things that bother me as far as all that goes. Have you given up your landline yet? And you only have cell phones? Some of you? Okay. If you have a landline, keep it. Because if you only have cell phones and you're talking to someone on the phone and you're getting really angry, you can't slam the phone down anymore. You can't. So this is, oh, here we go again, ready? All right. So this is what it looks like for those of you that still have a landline. This is an example. What do you mean my part isn't going to be ready for a couple of months? You promised it to me before. Well, let me tell you what I think about that. Slam, right? Slam. But if you only have cell phones, this is what that looks like. What do you mean my part won't be ready for a couple months? You promised it to me before. Well, let me tell you what I think about that. It's not the same. It's not the same. Down in Connecticut, there's a sign. If you're coming up from New York, on 95 North, about 30 miles up into Connecticut, there's actually a sign on the road that says, correctional facility, no stopping. Is this a problem? Are people driving up at 65 miles an hour on Interstate 95 stopping to pick up hitchhikers in orange uniforms? Is this happening so much that they had to put up a sign? Well, I think instead of spending money on the sign, they should just fix the hole in the wall. They should just fix the hole in the wall, they wouldn't need the sign. So say that there's a couple of convicts and they're planning to break out. They go, well, we're gonna break out, we'll run through the trees, we'll get to the edge of the highway and we'll hitch, and the other guy goes, can't do that anymore, they put up a sign. So what's the sense of that? Also in Connecticut, there's signs for littering. It used to be $219 for littering. Like, how do they get to that? But I learned recently that they changed it to $225. So I actually believe that someone that heard my routine about this finally said something to them. and they changed it. And that was on, the first one I saw was on the way to Foxwoods. Right, there's like 9 miles of highway to get to Foxwoods from 95. And love going there, but my wife limits me because she thinks I have a gambling problem, and I don't. I have a losing problem. If I was winning, there'd be no problem. If you're on your way to Hyannis, no, I'm sorry, I already said that. If you're on your way to Provincetown, there's actually a sign on the left side, huge sign, about 10 miles before you get to Provincetown, that says that the fine for littering is from $0 to $10,000. $10,000. Does anyone have $10,000 worth of trash in their car? Even if you're driving a mobile home, you wouldn't have $10,000 worth of trash. So what would qualify for a $10,000 fine? Well, maybe, like in the dead of winter, this is kind of a stretch, but maybe in the dead of winter, a couple of gangsters might have a body in the trunk, and there's like no one around, and they stop and they drag in the body, and a cop goes by and stops them and says, "Hey, that's a $10,000 fine." I don't know, I don't get it. Are there any Big Y restaurant, supermarkets around here? No? Big Y?
Worcester.
Okay, I go to the Big Y in Walpole, and there's actually a sign in the parking lot that I'm going to talk about. I was there recently, and I go there just to get their rotisserie chicken because it's like $7, and it's, you know, usually pretty good. So I found a spot, and I'm starting to pull in. Oh, can you still hear me? Because I realized I'm not using the mic anymore.
Yes.
Okay. See, this is all for naught.
Oh, exactly. This is a prop.
So I'm about to pull into a spot at the Big Y, and there's a sign, so I stop to read what it says. This is what that sign actually says. Parking for customers with children. Okay. So I pull in. I get out of the car. And this woman yells at me. She goes, "Where are your children?" I said, "Well, my son lives down in D.C. My daughter lives in Easton, and my youngest son lives up near Hayward. How about yourself?" So I guess by the look on her face, they need to make the sign a little bit more clear. So I can't believe that I got 5 minutes left, and I'm going to close with a piece of advice and a final joke. And I'm sorry I didn't get to everything, but I really want to talk about Charlie the Tuna, because I forgot to include him in things that bother me. The Charlie the Tuna commercials. Is it okay if I go over a few minutes?
Oh, yeah.
Charlie the Tuna commercials never made sense to me, and yet the Charlie the Tuna commercial is a part of American pop culture now because it went on for decades. You have this suicidal tuna that wants to get captured, and he wears a beret, right? He's got a beret and thick black glasses, and the reason that Charlie the Tuna is made up that way is so that they think he's cool and that they'll let him grab the hook or whatever. And remember, I mean, the part of the commercial, we used to say it all the time. It was like, "Sorry, Charlie. Sorry, Charlie." And, you know, and the logo was, "Sorry, Charlie, we don't want tuna with good taste. We want tuna that tastes good." Right? That was, yeah, really. In fact, this was so ingrained in our culture back then that there was a football coach. Anybody know? Bill Parcells, years ago. During an interview, he got mad and he actually said, "Who do you think I am, Charlie the Tuna?" And he was called the Tuna from then on. That's true. That's how ingrained that whole Charlie the Tuna thing was. So I don't get it. So imagine being the fishermen that are bringing up a bunch of tuna, and there's Charlie the Tuna finally made it. And you go, "Look at that! He's wearing a beret and glasses. He doesn't look too happy." No one ever told Charlie the Tuna what happens if, in fact, you got caught. That you get put into 800 little pieces, tin cans of tuna. You get mixed with mayonnaise and end up in a sandwich, put in a brown bag, and it goes to school with this little 8-year-old kid in Dorchester every day like me. I would have been really upset if I forgot the Charlie the Tuna. So I do have one piece of advice, but just to let you know, I am a volunteer. I do some shows that do pay me, but for the most part, I said from the beginning that I will do these shows for my fellow seniors at no charge. I am a volunteer. So I am going to be, and I've done about a dozen of these so far, since I started back in August. I'm going to be in Cranston, Rhode Island. I'm going to be in Framingham. I'm going to be in Laconia, up in New Hampshire. And a couple of senior centers asked me to come back, and we'll see if this place does. But I'm going for a return to the senior center in Franklin and the senior center in Raynham also. So I still have a bunch of shows going on. And pretty much I just send out emails to senior centers to see who takes the hook.
Like Charlie the Tuna.
Yeah. If someone were to ask you for a piece of advice, I'm sure that with all the experience you have, you would come up with something. So this is my piece of advice for everyone here. I hope that It comes in handy one day, and it goes like this. Never ever go through a car wash when you have to pee. Never ends well. All right, and one last joke, and this one kind of stretches the limits of PG-13 just a little bit, but I think we can take it. So after I graduated high school, for those summers and winter breaks when I was home in Stoughton, I actually drove a taxi in the town of Stoughton. It was called Billy's Taxi. 2 cars, that's all there was, all local stuff. And there was a man that we drove quite regularly. He was an alcoholic. We picked him up at like 10, 11 in the morning at the Lithuanian Club in downtown Stoughton and just drove him home. And we weren't even supposed to talk to him. Just pick him up, and he was like, well, he was drunk, as much drunk as you can be. And just pick him up and take him home and just drop him off. Well, one day when I picked him up, I made a mistake. I actually talked to him. I said to him, all right, I'm going to take you home now. And he said, you always take me home. And then he just started insulting me. Yeah, you know, you're stupid, fat, you know, short, you're this, you're that. And I just kind of let it go because he was a regular. But then he crossed the line. Then he made fun of my private parts. I wasn't putting up with that. So I pulled over. I said, get out. You know, well, I'm not going to pay. I said, I don't care, just get out. So he still had like a mile to walk if he could make it. And I told the owners, and they were okay. And that was the last time I ever showed my junk to a passenger. That guy ruined it for everyone. That guy ruined it for everyone I've ever driven since. I hope you're all okay. It wasn't that bad. Anyway, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Lexington. You're not gonna like jump me now, are you? It was a PG-13 performance. A couple of them were a little iffy. Thanks, Chelsea.
Sit down with that.
You just did. I really talk about things that I mean, people are all different. I feel like TikTok is very liberal.
Don't come out till okay, I'm staying here. Or stay by the.
How do you spell that?
I'm gonna just be ready. Yeah, you'll do
Yes, I've seen a few pictures of you over the years.
I'm sorry I only saw the last few minutes and get my teeth cleaned.
And
Then
look
I
good.
came back. Thank you.
Did I introduce you to my
Yeah, but earlier. You guys came over and
She's
said-
still black.
Okay, good.
And I'm from New York.
Okay.
So I didn't get it with those South Shore jokes.
That's all right.
She had to live with me,
Yeah.
and I got all of it.
Okay.
That's all right. I'm from Lexington, and I probably would have done it such a short.
Accent.
Yeah.
You know, actually, still keep me away. I don't understand what she said. Really?
I believe that.
You were fun. I enjoyed it. Really were. I do
I
Oh,
could
good.
Cambridge. She said like
position, but I got
I
I never realized that.
Oh.
No, I don't. If people guess that you can say from New York.